Hi everyone, it is Samantha, and today is Christmas Eve at the time of filming this, so I hope everyone who celebrates Christmas is having a wonderful holiday. I decided for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, my videos for Vlogmas would be to read you guys a short little Charles Dickens story of some kind. So the dark lighting is on purpose, trying to create a little Christmassy, cozy atmosphere. I hope it's not too of an annoying light. And I am prepared with some peppermint hot chocolate with tons of marshmallows in it, and I will now read you guys a Charles Dickens Christmas story. I decided to choose to read Charles Dickens because I feel like he really captures the spirit of Christmas, and I really enjoy that. And the story I decided to read today is really more of an essay. It's called Christmas Festivities, where he sort of describes a typical Christmas day and Christmas Eve, and I think he does it really well, and so I wanted to share that with all of you guys. So without further ado, I hope you enjoyed this little Christmas story of his. Christmas Festivities, Christmas time. That man must be a misanthrope indeed, in whose breast something like a jovial feeling is not roused, in whose mind some pleasant associations are not awakened by the reoccurrence of Christmas. There are people who will tell you that Christmas is not to them what it used to be, that each succeeding Christmas has found some cherished hope or happy prospect of the year before, dimmed or passed away, and that the present only serves to remind them of reduced circumstances and straitened incomes, of the feasts they once bestowed on hollow friends, and of the cold looks that meet them now, in adversity and misfortune. Never heed such dismal reminiscences. There are few men who have lived long enough in the world who cannot call up such thoughts any day in the year. Then do not select the merriest of the 365 for their doleful recollections, but draw your chair nearer the blazing fire, fill the glass, and send round the song. And if your room be smaller than it was a dozen years ago, or if your glass is filled with a reeking punch instead of sparkling wine, put a good face on the matter, and empty it offhand, and fill another, and troll off the old ditty you used to sing, and thank God it's no worse. Look on the merry faces of your children as they sit around the fire. One little seat may be empty, one slight form that gladdened the father's heart and roused the mother's pride to look upon may not be there. Dwell not upon the past, think not that one short year ago, the fair child now fast resolving into dust sat before you, with the bloom of health upon its cheek, and the gay unconsciousness of infancy in its joyous eye. Reflect upon your present blessings, of which every man has many, not on your past misfortunes, of which all men have some. Fill your glass again with a merry face and a contented heart. Our life on it, but your Christmas shall be merry, and your New Year a happy one. Who can be insensible to the outpourings of good feeling and honest interchange of affectionate attachment which abound at this season of the year? A Christmas family party. We know nothing in nature more delightful. There seems a magic in the very name of Christmas. Petty jealousies and discords are forgotten. Social feelings are awakened in bosoms to which they have long been strangers. Father and son, or brother and sister, who have met and passed with averted gaze, or a look of cold recognition for months before, proffer and return the cordial embrace, and bury their past animosities in their present happiness. Kindly hearts that have yearned towards each other, but have been withheld by false notions of pride and self-dignity, are again united, and all is kindness and benevolence. Would that Christmas lasted the whole year through, and that the prejudices and passions which deform our better nature were never called into action among those to whom, at least, they should ever be strangers. The Christmas party that we mean is not a mere assemblage of relations got up at a week or two's notice, originating this year, having no family precedent in the last, and not likely to be repeated in the next. It is an annual gathering of all the accessible members of the family, young or old, rich or poor, and all the children look forward to it for some 2 months beforehand in a fever of anticipation. Formerly it was always held at Grandpapa's, but Grandpapa getting old and Grandmama getting old too and rather infirm, they have given up housekeeping and domesticated themselves with Uncle George. So the party always takes place at Uncle George's house, but Grandmama sends in most of the good things, and Grandpapa will always toddle down all the way to Newgate Market to buy the turkey, which he engages a porter to bring home behind him in triumph, always insisting on the man's being rewarded with a glass of spirits over and above his hire, to drink a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to Aunt George. As to Grandma, she is very secret and mysterious for 2 or 3 days beforehand, but not sufficiently so to prevent rumors getting afloat that she has purchased a beautiful new cap with pink ribbons for each of the servants, together with sundry books and penknives and pencil cases for the younger branches, to say nothing of divers secret additions to the order originally given by Aunt George at the pastry cook's, such as another dozen of mince pies for the dinner, and a large plum cake for the children. On Christmas Eve, Grandma is always in excellent spirits, and after employing all the children during the day in stoning the plums and all that, insists regularly every year on Uncle George coming down into the kitchen, taking off his coat, and stirring the pudding for half an hour or so, which Uncle George good-humoredly does to the vociferous delight of the children and servants, and the evening concludes with a glorious game of blind man's bluff, in an early stage of which Grandpa takes great care to be caught, in order that he may have an opportunity of displaying his dexterity. On the following morning, the old couple, with as many of the children as the pew will hold, go to church in great state, leaving Aunt George at home, dusting decanters and filling casters, and Uncle George carrying bottles into the dining parlor, and calling for corkscrews and getting into everybody's way. When the church party returns to lunch, Grandpapa produces a small sprig of mistletoe from his pocket, and tempts the boys to kiss their little cousins under it, a proceeding which affords both the boys and the old gentleman unlimited satisfaction, but which rather outrages Grandma's ideas of decorum, until Grandpa says that when he was just 13 years and 3 months old, he kissed Grandma under a mistletoe too. On which the children clap their hands and laugh very heartily, as do Aunt George and Uncle George, and Grandma looks very pleased and says with a benevolent smile that Grandpa always was an impudent dog, and which the children laugh very heartily again, and Grandpa more heartily than any of them. But all these diversions are nothing to the subsequent excitement, when Grandmama in a high cap and a slate-colored silk gown, and Grandpapa, with the beautifully plaited shirt frill and white neckerchief, set themselves on one side of the drawing-room fire, with Uncle George's children and little cousins innumerable seated in the front, waiting the arrival of the anxiously expected visitors. Suddenly a hackney coach is heard to stop, and Uncle George, who had been looking out of the window, exclaims, "Here's Jane," on which the children rush to the door and scamper helter-skelter down the stairs, and Uncle Robert and Aunt Jane and the dear little baby and the nurse and the whole party are ushered upstairs amidst tumultuous shouts of "Oh my!" from the children, and frequently repeated warnings not to hurt the baby from the nurse. And Grandpapa takes the child, and Grandmama kisses her daughter, and the confusion of this first entry has scarcely subsided, when some other aunts and uncles with even more cousins arrive, and the grown-up cousins flirt with each other, and so do the little cousins too, for that matter, and nothing is to be heard but a confused din of talking, laughing, and merriment. A hesitating double knock at the street door, heard during a momentary pause in the conversation, excites a general inquiry of "Who's that?" and 2 or 3 children, who had been standing at the window, announce in a low voice that it's poor Aunt Margaret, upon which Aunt George leaves the room to welcome the newcomer, and Grandmama draws herself up rather stiff and stately, for Margaret married a poor man without her consent, and poverty not being a sufficiently weighty punishment for her offense, has been discarded by her friends, and debarred the society of her dearest relatives. But Christmas has come round, and the unkind feelings that have struggled against better dispositions during the year have melted away before its genial influence, like half-formed ice beneath the morning sun. It is not difficult in a moment of angry feeling for a parent to denounce a disobedient child, but to banish her at a period of general goodwill and hilarity from the hearth, around which she has sat on so many anniversaries of the same day, expanding by slow degrees from infancy to girlhood, and then bursting almost imperceptibly into the high-spirited and beautiful woman, is wildly different. The air of conscious rectitude and cold forgiveness which the old lady has assumed sits ill upon her. And when the poor girl is led in by her sister, pale in looks and broken in spirit, not from poverty, for that she could bear, but from the consciousness of undeserved neglect and unmerited unkindness, it is easy to see how much of it is assumed. A momentary pause succeeds. The girl breaks suddenly from her sister and throws herself sobbing on her mother's neck. The father steps hastily forward and grasps her husband's hand. Friends crowd round to offer their hearty congratulations, and happiness and harmony again prevail. As to the dinner, it's perfectly delightful. Nothing goes wrong, and everybody is in the best of spirits, and disposed to please and be pleased. Grandpapa relates a circumstantial account of the purchase of the turkey, with a slight digression relative to the purchase of previous turkeys on former Christmases, which Grandmama corroborates in the minutest particular. Uncle George tells stories and carves poultry, and takes wine, and jokes with the children at the side table, and winks at the cousins that are making love or being made love to, and exhilarates everybody with his good humor and hospitality. And when at last a stout servant staggers in with a gigantic pudding with a sprig of holly in the top, there is such a laughing and shouting and clapping of chubby little hands and kicking up of fat dumpy legs as can only be equaled by the applause with which the astounding feat of pouring lighted brandy into mince pies is received by the younger visitors. And the dessert and the wine and the fun, such beautiful speeches and such songs from Aunt Margaret's husband, who turns out to be such a nice man and so attentive to Grandmama. Even Grandpapa not only sings his annual song with unprecedented vigor, but on being honored with a unanimous encore according to annual custom, actually comes out with a new one which nobody but Grandmama ever heard before. and a young scapegrace of a cousin who has been in some disgrace with the old people for certain heinous sins of omission and commission, neglecting to call and persisting in drinking Burton ale, astonishes everybody into convulsions of laughter by volunteering the most extraordinary comic songs that were ever heard, and thus the evening passes in a strain of rational goodwill and cheerfulness, doing more to awaken the sympathies of every member of the party in behalf of his neighbor, and to perpetuate their good feelings during the ensuing year, than all the homilies that have ever been written by all the divines that have ever lived. There are 100 associations connected with Christmas, which we should very much like to recall to the minds of our readers. There are 100 comicalities and inseparable from the period on which it would give us equal pleasure to dilate. We have attained our ordinary limits, however, and cannot better conclude than by wishing each and all of them individually and collectively a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope you guys enjoyed that little story from Charles Dickens, and I hope you guys will be having a wonderful Christmas holiday. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, bye!